June the 4th, 2021. Guys, you're looking at information coming in from the Discover satellite. It's an early warning system of solar wind events that are approaching our planet. The top of this, many of you have seen it before, and the goal is the density in centimeters cubed of the protons in the incoming solar cloud. The speed of the solar cloud or solar wind event is in the second line in purple, and you can see throughout the day it's increased. You can kind of see a couple of early impacts here, and right there. Right here is kind of a climbing event, and then now we're into this upper interference line, and it's starting to hold 435, 437, pretty steady now. When you think about these numbers at 500,000 miles per hour, then it's hard to wrap your mind around that. It is for me. It's just kind of past the human conception of that type of speed. And the bottom is the temperature of the solar wind event. And when you have an event that strikes the Earth like this, and the temperature increases, you'll notice it in the UV radiation. Whether you're getting sunburn worse, or crops are worse, whatever, you can notice that solar wind is part of space weather. And space weather controls most of Earth's weather that's not manipulated in some way or the other. But when we see these, it's not really large jumps, but I've talked about this before. When you're in solar or grand solar minimum, your shields are weak. So these events have a greater impact than if you had a strong solar presence during grand solar minimum or a solar peak in its cycle. Then that activates the shields of the Earth. It's like applying voltage to a motor. And even when you do that with an electric motor, its invisible electromagnetic shield increases and strengthens. And so does the Earth. But when the sun's weak, and then you have the problem of weak shields, weak dynamo, whatever you want to call it. And now we're starting to see even these events take they're putting a lot of pressure on our planet, because we've had some volcanoes lately. We've had some in Japan, then we watched them move up into the Aleutian Islands and then into Canada. So over the last 7 days, we've seen these impacts. And now with this last one, we're getting 5.7s off the California and Oregon coast in that Cascadia area. Guys, it's very dangerous. And so I wanted to talk about it because it's not that big of an impact. It's a side glance of a CME that was thrown from the sun, but it points out the weakness of our shields and what we're going to be dealing with. Now, this is our earthquake map from the USGS, and I've gone back 7 days of magnitudes 4.5 or greater, U.S., but it also picks it up around the world. Going back 7 days, we were seeing quakes and 5.5s off of Japan. Then we saw one that's just past the 7-day limit in the Aleutian Islands, guys. You remember that one, but we're again on the 7-day magnitude. But when we did the video, and we saw right before that a buoy dropped a tremendous amount. Then we saw a quake and a volcano going off in the Aleutians. Then we had here, and this is on the 31st of May, a 6.1 in Alaska. In that video, I think it was that one that I mentioned, as the quakes move along the ring of fire, especially when you start getting multiple solar wind events, they move clockwise. And in that video, I said that's going to put pressure down through Canada, down through Washington and Oregon, down into the Cascadia fault zone. So today, if you look at this 5.9, two 5.9s that are 143 kilometers west of Gold Beach, Oregon, there's been also a 4.7, and I'm going to change the magnitude to 1 day all magnitudes, and you'll see a few other aftershocks. Check this out. Back this down a little. So you've got your 5.5s, your here, 5.9s here and here. Behind that, your 4.7s, another 4.2, 3.9, 3.2. Now, will that end the pressure that's building up here? We don't know. Or is this a precursor? And like I said, the thing to watch during the solar events now with grand solar minimum and weak shields is this clockwise rotation of these quakes. So we're going to have to pay attention to it. Again, it was just a glancing blow, and we really shouldn't have felt much if we had a very strong shield around our planet. But because of the decreased voltage that's being produced in this electric universe by the sun, the dynamo of the Earth is weakened. So when the sun is starting to wake up going into solar cycle 25, you're going to see these events happen. The shield sitting there cruising, very weak, and then it really doesn't have time or the strength to respond to a sudden solar event. Now, as the sun increases its power going into the peak of solar cycle 25 over the next 5 or 6 years, you'll see the dynamo or the Earth shield strengthen with it, and small events like this won't affect us like it is now. But what I'm saying is right now it's weakened, and the energy has been moving clockwise around the ring of fire. Now, the next place in this movement went from China, then you had the Kamchatka event, then you had the event in the Aleutians, then again going back to the quake in Florida, in Alaska. Let me back this up 7 days. Right there, 6.1, 7.3 kilometers north of Chicxulub, Alaska. Then here. So guys, in California and down into Mexico, if this pattern continues, you could see energy and movement on the San Andreas Fault. So it's a good time to pay attention simply because of the patterns that we see. And for years, that's the one thing that I've relied on, where, no matter what it is, earthquakes, comets, solar flares, or whatever, you can see patterns emerge. And that's what I'm seeing now. Hopefully nothing will happen. But in the next few days, depending on the solar events, we need to pay very close attention to this. We're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe. By the way, please subscribe below for updates. Thank you.